We are living through one of the biggest changes in history. Technology and work are changing, and so are we. Every day, new technology reshapes our lives, often faster than we can understand it. Grasp what's happening, what it means for you, and how stay ahead. Welcome to The Future Was Yesterday, a podcast where we talk with the leaders who are reshaping the world of work. Because the future isn't coming, it's already here.
Welcome, Electra, and thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to talk to you, and thanks for reaching out to me on LinkedIn and engaging with my posts. I think we have a lot in common, and I love to have these conversations public.
Thank you. Thanks so much. And first of all, I like to start by asking if you could tell us a little bit about the work that you are doing at the moment, where you are and what are you doing at the moment?
Okay. Well, so I just noticed up in the top that the podcast is called The Future Was Yesterday. And I think that's how we're feeling at the moment. Every morning we wake up, and it's funny because I'm an accountant, right? But most people don't understand what an accountant is, and I'll get to that. But I used to call myself a futurist accountant, right? But then I kept feeling like futurist just feels so yesterday. And I don't know. I don't know. Our old terms are all being sort of reinvented at the moment. It's all about what we can do, not what we are. So, I'm based right now. I'm in Malaysia, just on the Johor Strait across from Singapore, on an island called Forest City. It's a man-made island. And in 2024,
Wow.
Balaji Srinivasan sent me an email, and everyone else who was going to the Network State conference in Singapore, an email that said, with the power of Bitcoin, we have an island. Come and start the network state with us. And so, I was of the first 100, I applied, and I was of the first 120 out of, 4,000 or 5,000 applications that got to come here. And I've been with this project ever since. I live here now as a long-term resident, and I'm involved with the accounting industry also in Malaysia. So I'm from Australia, but which is not far away. It's Australians come to Asia quite a lot, and quite a few do end up living in Asia. And so here we are. I'm at Network School. So if you want to have a look at that, NS doc.
Wow, you just blow my mind with that introduction.
It's the first country on blockchain, apparently, a startup society. Anyone who's read The Network State understands what this project is for.
And how it works in real life, because you are living there, you're having your real life there. You're not something like in metaverse or that you are in an avatar somewhere, but you are living there. How is to live in a place like this, where all of this is
good.
already in place?
Yeah, well, I mean, the real sort of innovation here that enables us to reach our true potential, gives us the opportunity to, which I'm grateful for, is that they have designed society as a service.
Wow.
But what that means is I pay a fixed amount each month, in my case, $1,500 a month US, and that covers my accommodation. Big apartment that I share with one friend. We have 2 rooms each. So I have this study. We have 3 meals a day. We have gym training, the healthy meals. It was originally Brian Johnson inspired. We have a lot of programming. The programming here is everything from, frontier tech, AI, crypto, coding, health, all kinds of things. It's very community. There's a lot of community contribution. We're learning from other people. The people here are from all over the world, different age groups, different professions, technical, non-technical. So the speed at which you can learn here, and all the extra time you have, because you don't have to manage, you just pay one fee per month and it's all done for you. You can either live in the hotel when you come here, but when you sign up long term, you get an apartment. So if you have a look at Forest City, it was a project between a Chinese development company and the Sultan of Johor in Malaysia to build this island, and it was about 2010 or something, 2013, and all these there's about 80 apartment buildings, might be more or less. But when we first came here in 24, it was literally a ghost city. But now, since we've been here, there are a lot more people coming here and coming from mainland China, and so it's a real melting pot, a hub, and such an exciting place to live. And the proximity to Singapore is so good. It suits me to be here because rather than having to travel all the time to conferences, people come here. So, I get more done.
Well, that's why because of people like you that this podcast is called The Future Was Yesterday, because everything that you are just telling is something that like from a science fiction movie. But you are already living there.
Yeah, it's kind of like Asimov's foundation, Terminus, I think, Balaji, the frontier.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I like the climate here. It's really quite comfortable. It's not rough living. Might be for some people who have a very high standard of living, but for most people, it's very comfortable. So while I'm here, I can be focused for days on my projects, just working away. And then I'll go, I need to socialize. And it's very easy because I just go over to the hotel and meet everyone at breakfast or go to an event. This afternoon, I'm doing an event on Malaysian tax just because people are kind of wondering, oh, how do we deal with that? So I'm kind of coming up with a system, and I've got a bit of a community here to help with that. So we're all trying to solve each other's problems so that we can, fill the gaps in our knowledge and progress our projects. And a lot of people find their co-founders here or find jobs, and it feels like the real sort of land of opportunity that we're creating ourselves here, thanks to Balaji and his team kind of inventing it as they go along for us.
Well, this, like you mentioned, that society as a service, no? It's just now I'm so curious, and I really would like to go and see it by myself and learn about that.
You can come for a month and stay in the hotel. It's good to stay a few months just to really get a feel for it. And then some people decide to stay for 12 months, sign up long term if they're able to. I decided to do that because it was just costing me so much time and money maintaining my property in Australia and traveling around Australia all the time for events, conferences, clients, that I could work online anyway. So it suited me to just up sticks and move here.
Yeah. Wow.
So it is possible, but there are good visa options in Malaysia. Yeah.
Wow.
But the plan is to do it all around the world. No, it's around the world. This is just this exists to bootstrap startup societies. So we're in V2 at the moment. I was in V1. And as we come into V3, it'll become a bit more like a campus, grow to more than 1,000 people, then 10,000 nodes. Then we go around and set them up in other countries so you can travel between them. There should be economic agreements between them.
Just to close this part of the conversation, because I'm curious about how the people is living there. That will be equivalent like a city campus, like where it's a big university and people is living there around the campus.
Like that, but it's education. We know education is changing, everything is changing, and it's not going to be about just passively receiving an education and getting a qualification. You're here to build something. You're here to, whether that's building community, building a new company, an application, an ecosystem. And you learn more quickly in an environment like this. And why would you go and do a master's in AI? You can just come here for 3 months and pick up everything from everyone here. The place is full of geniuses. So, that's been great for me because so you just like, what's going to be important is that we verify what we know, through credentialing, on-chain credentialing, and just evidence of what we've built. And I'll talk about that too as we go through. But that's what they're trying to do here is what I've been trying to do for years in Australia, but I was isolated and I needed to be in this environment.
Yeah. And now moving forward, this is usually the moment in which I will ask the guest to tell us about the project on which the guest is working. But you are doing so many things, and you are so cross disciplinary, cross sectional in what you are doing. My question to you will be, what is the problem that Electra Frost is trying to solve for the world? What is what you are doing, Electra?
Okay. I guess I'm merging the accounting profession with Bitcoin.
You are preparing
I'm
us
bringing
for...
it together. I'm preparing for post-national economies, for a Bitcoin standard. And, Bitcoin doesn't need regulation. It's trustless. But as we build protocols and a multi-chain, multi-currency economy that may settle on Bitcoin instead of to the US dollar as the global reserve asset, we'll have a multifaceted economy with derivatives and all kinds of things. I'm not Bitcoin maxi. I don't think it's just spending Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin is money. Accountants are financially literate, and they help everyone else be financially literate and trust each other and get along and do business and not go to jail and stuff. So they're quite useful to have around. But they're also useful if you think of a future society that is built on decentralization technologies and agentic AI, what we're seeing in the future. The further you get from Bitcoin, the more risk and trust assumptions there are. You have to trust in counterparties, whether it's like signers or custodians or whatever. And they're the points at which you need regulation. But if your regulators are caught in nation-state jurisdictions, they don't coordinate so well, and perhaps the trust is not in those the bodies that exist, like, maybe what's going to be IMF in the future. In a network state future, if you read the network state and understand it, that may be where we are headed, then who do we trust? And I think that is accountants, because accountants have a kind of a federated kind of global code of conduct that binds them to act in the public interest. And I find that really interesting because that goes across borders. The International Federation of Accountants, there are about 150 member bodies around the world, CPA chartered accountants in every country, that have to comply with, their members need to comply with these common standards, right, in competencies and ethics. And one of those is the public interest. And we are required to abide by the public interest above the interest of our clients, our employers, potentially even governments. So I think I would like to transport that public interest mandate into a decentralized, AI-driven economy. And so that's what I'm really researching at the moment. And also what the taxation pathways are for network states, how we get from the concept of tax residency to network residency, and the sort of negotiations that may take place for residents of the network.
But it's so appropriate and so, at least from my experience and my point of view, so rare to see the point of view, like from a person like yourself, like you're saying, from an accountant. If someone understands how money works and how money is keeping society, governments, businesses working together and functioning as a mechanism or as organism, it's the accountants. And I hadn't seen too many people like talking about this part of the technology. A lot of people talk about adoption of crypto or digital currencies, but I hadn't seen really people talking about actually how this is going to work, how it's going to be the taxes, and how it's going to be the regulations and the law and complying. Because for people in their everyday lives, should be, or at least from my point of view, it should be the same. You're not changing the way how economy works, just a different kind of value that you are keeping as a reserve, no?
That's right. I mean, we've worked out a lot of things well,
Yeah.
We're not changing our legacy values so much. We're changing the legacy institutions. Those are going to be replaced with new institutions. Certain roles are being disintermediated, but the people and the values and the what they provide to society is just transported into the future. So, for example, we think of accountants as doing operational things, and forget that accountants are actually technologists. Many are. We have to solve problems, and we've led most businesses onto the internet and cloud applications from bricks and mortar to the internet. And half the accountants I know are just loving Claude. They're just solving all their problems at once. They're understaffed and like, how can I automate this? They don't want to just be passive users of vendor software. They love the idea of creating their own, and are open to exploring those sort of collective models. But if you say DAO to them, like, we should form a DAO and do this collectively, right? They because it's the not-for-profit kind of version of a DAO, they might go, it's all technology. But what we've got to understand is decentralization as a just a cultural change. It's not all about the technology.
Mhm.
So yeah, abstracting away the technology and just seeing, well, society's, whatever's going on, society will still need us in future for three main things that we provide, which is the accountability, advocacy, for, you use an accountant to represent you to government authorities, regulators, and trust. Because if something isn't entirely trustless, you need someone who's everyone going to trust? The accountant. Why? Because they're competent, they've got proof of competence, and you can sue them. They're insured. Like every day, every week, I'm asked, can you sign this letter for the bank? And I'm like, and they're trying to pass their liability to me. So I have to present it in a way that fits with my insurance, provides my credibility to that person to be able to get a loan. It's that's just a tiny example, but the same, like having an accountant who specializes in tax, like me, to represent your affairs to the government. If the government has questions about it, they come to me, not you. So that protection, that's advocacy, and we will need that more than ever going into the future. So all these people who are going, yay, I've got Claude now, I can replace my accountant. Good luck. We're 10 years ahead of you. Work with us. AI is not going to help you when the government asks you questions, because you won't have. So what I'm trying to do is get accountants to really step into that. If it can't be verified on an open protocol confidently enough, you need an accountant, or at least some kind of proof that an AI acted with the authority and was executed by an accountant, had the right intentions, that is traceable to someone that you can trust. So there's a lot to unpack there, and I'm not going to be able to do it all myself. So I need being at network school gives me a place to the foundation, an academy kind of environment where I can get accountants who are working online to come here and help build it. That's why I'm here.
Wow, no, it's because
not
it's
just taxes.
so important, because, for example, myself as entrepreneur, becoming an entrepreneur, it's at least from my experience, involves the personal growth, in that all the responsibility you need to learn to take for yourself, that maybe when you are an employee, you are not aware of everything that is happening around your life, because someone else is taking care precisely of your taxes, of how everything is handled for you. But when you're becoming an entrepreneur, the first thing that you have to do is find a good accountant, find a lawyer. It's part of becoming independent, becoming the one that is in the driver's seat of your life. And you really need those people in your life, in your business, close to what you are doing. Technology is changing so much, and the way of doing business is changing so fast, especially when you are working transnational. And even if you're a small company and you have collaborators or business partners or clients in other countries or other continents, it's sometimes so complicated just to get paid, to make an invoice. And you need those people, your accountant, your lawyers, hopefully your government, understand those figures, what is happening, so you can work and do what you are doing without frictions.
But quite often, because people can't find the accountants and legal professionals to trust, or that are affordable, are working in a way that they can provide affordable services, they tend to just try and do it themselves because they've got to work. Like a startup's happening quickly. It doesn't have it could spend money on a lawyer, or it could spend money on a marketing campaign that will bring money to spend on the lawyer. So things start before the professionals get paid. And so we're often putting out fires later rather than being part of the beginning. But that's a really good point you raise. Entrepreneurs especially need accountants in these environments to be creating the systems, not just leaving it up to you doing it on Claude and hoping for the best, but building the systems that you can engage with at a very low cost in the beginning. And so that, as things to get to a certain point, the cost of entry to professional services can be brought down a lot. Accountants, they're just so busy trying to keep up with all the extra that's coming from governments, more and more and more and more compliance. Like, that's another thing that motivates me. Our profession is pretty much used by governments to roll out their initiatives across the population, which are becoming, their digital initiatives are pretty much more and more about surveillance. We feel the accountants are a self-regulated profession. They don't, your tax person doesn't work for the government. They work for you. It might be different in some countries. Like in Malaysia, the Institute of Accountants here is like a government agency of sorts, which is very unusual. They're usually independent, and certain functions like financial advice and tax advice have to come with a license from government to be able to do certain things, and that's a consumer protection. Those things can be, those licenses from government that accountants get coming with more and more strings attached, which expand the surveillance and policing powers of governments. And I think we're the ones that have the public trust more so than governments, and I'm getting a little bit edgy here.
Exactly. No, but it's
not really the same public. And I think we need to just sort of rebalance things, in the public interest. Yeah. Institutionally, I think better.
And just from this, I think it can go to a totally different conversation about the need of having financial education on schools, because at least on maybe there where you are living, that you are living in the future, they're already doing something about that. But at least here in Europe, it's still something that you need to learn by yourself when you have the need to learn about these things. It's not something that you are learning at school or when you are in that young age, unless you are in certain programs. And fortunately for us as entrepreneurs, if you go closer to the ecosystems in your country, you may find people or groups or organizations that help you understand or even work as an accountant as a service for the beginning of your career, or the beginning of your business, until, like you said, you are able to have an accountant in your retainer, no? But this is something, and of course you can ask now ChatGPT, but it's never going to be in the same level. You're not going to trust. I wouldn't trust what ChatGPT is telling me about my taxes, what I can do, what I cannot do, more than what I trust to my accountant. What is the latest regulation? What is changing? What it's
that's right.
possible.
It's not the right model for accessing that. But I think that's something we can solve as well on my list of problems to solve. One of the problems, I think the main problem I'm solving with the accounting profession will have a waterfall effect, a snowball effect of solving other problems. So first thing is getting accountants to go, I work in the public interest, not necessarily for the government, and to kind of disengage themselves a bit from the pile of work and make some time, come to network school and skill up in AI, learn how to start building these solutions, right, collectively, and feel more empowered like everyone else is right now learning. Then build these solutions, because I can't build them on my own, but I can kind of direct it. And one of those would be getting public publicly accessible AI to find the right advice, not as a sort of a centralized type of repository of it, but in an open ecosystem. So, for example, the graph I showed you earlier, graph electrafrost.com, is just an example of me getting my intellectual provenance from the last 20 years onto my own sort of GitHub repository on a web app that's machine readable, agent discoverable, so that we've got to get our information out of silos, out of professional institutes and LinkedIn and all our knowledge. That's what Credu is. It's just credentials that are discoverable, right? And for the AI to be able to find the expertise that you need and a trace of credible sort of recommendations from us.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that's something I think collectively our profession can build to really bolster that public trust and yeah, rather than people just, I mean, I got I was keeping my head down at Network School last year, but some digital nomads were trying to solve their own problems by creating their own AI tax tools. And the output was very wrong, which is quite dangerous. So it kind of motivated me to pull up an old idea that I had from my blockchain diploma and which is discoverable credentials.
We are going to share, if it's okay with you, we are going to share the electrafrost.com. I think it's the address. We are going to share it here below.
The graph will be visible in about an hour. I will be putting the graph on the front page of electrafrost.com. So anyone can have a look at it, and I'll post on LinkedIn and in my Substack how to do it. I learned it from really someone else, and who I will credit for it.
Very, very interesting and valuable, all what you are doing. And it's difficult to find someone like you that it's working on this and being so generous, putting your thoughts, your ideas out there, so for other people can get enriched by reading and thinking about that. It's really a big contribution from your side.
Thank you. I mean, I'm just obsessed. I can see that things can be better. Many of us can, but it takes, making myself be surrounded by people who are also trying to do great big things, and being in this kind of community. No one tells me I'm crazy. Back in Australia, it was a little different. We have something called the tall poppy syndrome. If you well, just the ideas are just less familiar. But the funny thing is, I've been repeating things for so long, saying them so long, I'm now noticing other people are saying them. And, it's part of the reason why I did this graph of my intellectual provenance. So I can go, oh, it's something I said this long ago, to see how long it takes for our ideas to be viral. So just keep saying these controversial ideas, and they catch on, positive controversial ideas about how we can solve it. And people will say, no, you can't do that. But just keep saying it, and then people just copy you and do it.
Especially this is totally on the I think on the spirit of Web3. No, it's your data, your information. You are creating this from your mind, from your thoughts, and should be recognized. Everything. Should be recognized.
Yeah. Open source everything. I really believe in open source permissionless systems. Just make everything accessible and empower everyone to just go for it. I think at this stage it's our best bet.
The next thing that I would like to ask you, and we are almost reaching the end of the time we have, but I would like to ask your opinion or your thoughts about the possibility, maybe more real in some places than in others, of the adoptions of digital currencies. How do you see this process? Something that it's feasible, it's inevitable, or we are going to live in different regions in which ones are going to already be there and others are going to take longer time to be there?
I think Bitcoin is inevitable, but I also think that we do need to understand Bitcoin, that Bitcoin as money, not currency. Fiat thinking has, and this is common in the Bitcoin and crypto community, fiat thinking has caused us to conflate the concepts of money and currency. That's the starting point. Look, I think when we say digital currency, it's just inevitable because AI needs internet native money, programmable digital tokens of value, right? That's just internet native money. We should have had that with the internet in the beginning. We didn't, and no, that's what Web3 is. It's how the internet should have been. So we are getting there, and I think, it's just going to cost too much to be using fiat with AI, and we're seeing now stable coins are coming in, Clarity Act, it's all sort of on its way, and eventually the peg will have to switch from USD to Bitcoin at some stage. That's what I see as inevitable, and I think nothing happens overnight. Network states won't happen overnight. Network effects, they start off slowly, then they happen quickly. So we've got a way to go. I don't know, it could be 10 years, could be 2 years, could be 50 years. But I think it'll be inevitable, and perhaps there'll be, members of society that are using government tokens and people who are more involved in a sort of transnational digital economy that's different. But I think one thing we can denominate everything on and trust will be Bitcoin. I think the entire sort of monetary architecture of the world will change over the time, but it may be a parallel economy for quite some time. That's what I see kind of playing out.
It's like a few weeks ago, I was mentioning there was the big conference of technology here in Riga, Tech Chill, and I think the guys from PayPal, they had a presentation and they were talking about their vision for the future until the end of the decade or something like this, and they were telling that after all these years having e-commerce and having the e-commerce tied to social media and the algorithms and all these, and now it's not a way how to deny, how to not recognize how harmful has been the use of these algorithms, the use of how social media is used to promote some businesses over the others. No, so they were saying that it's going to be necessary to rethink how internet how the business of internet is working to move to the next evolution or the next generation of e-commerce in some sort of trustless way of organizing or processing these changes. But I felt, without they saying it openly, that they are thinking in these things, in these changes that we were just mentioning, and how, like you said, the internet from the beginning should have had some way how the money works in the in the internet. Otherwise, we get what we got. And now these big companies are starting to think maybe we need to change how the internet works. Of course, they are not doing it from the goodness of their heart. Maybe it's just facing realities that these things are inevitable, like you were mentioning, and just getting ahead of time.
I see your point. It's going to be, Web3, we thought was going to be a grassroots movement. But yeah, the web of trust is probably going to be built by the big tech. And that's interesting. You see, if you follow Michael Casey's work, Advanced AI Society, they had those patchwork conferences last year, the proof of control protocol, the web of trust over internet protocol, they're all talking about re-architecting the internet. But their targets are like Google, to be involved in creating that trust architecture for the internet, and that is going to require digital currencies. Cryptographic verification involves crypto. Pay the toll in micropayments to access something. Yeah, so I think, that's a very good point, Cesar. I think it's going to just sort of happen anyway. There'll be some incentives that we haven't thought of that are playing out.
Electra, we are just reaching the end of our time, but before ending, I would like to ask you, because it's really so interesting to have this conversation with you, and I wouldn't end it without asking you, which big transformation you see happening in the next 3 to 5 years, or maybe which one you wouldn't like to see happening, whichever you see more feasible?
I'd like to see an early implementation of a Bitcoin standard, and I think accountants should be involved in that because they can teach the public not to adopt how to spend Bitcoin, but how any sort of current form of currency or derivative can be settled on Bitcoin. The future version of Swift or something. I'd like to see something like that because otherwise, what else are we going to use other than the US dollar to value everything by? I quite like the simple concept of everything divided by 21 million. It kind of revalues everything down to the value of its productivity and usefulness to people. And also, some people may be able to live without money. That's also an interesting concept. Well, not without money, but they'll still need currency. So, yeah, ledgers. It's all ledgers, IOUs. That's how it and the concept of quadruple entry bookkeeping. People talk about triple entry bookkeeping with blockchain, but the fourth entry is the kind of regulatory sort of trust point. And if we have decentralized regulation with some, network of accountants and their agents providing that trust, then I think that would be well coupled with a Bitcoin standard.
Just before ending, I would like to ask if someone would like to get in contact with you or learn from what you are doing, how they can reach you, where they can find your ideas, your thoughts.
Just go to electrafrost.com and you can find me everywhere from there. And I'm quite happy, like, if you want to come to network school, just send me an email or a message through LinkedIn. I'm fairly responsive on. And yeah, I can give you some more information about it.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Electra. Thanks so much for your
send
time.
Your accountant here. Sorry, send your accountant here. That's what I meant to say.
I will try to send myself there.
Okay, would be great.
I really would like to see it in person. I will try to figure it out.
Bring your family. Okay. It's family friendly. We're making lots of changes here. Okay.
Perfect.
Thank you. Perfect. It's been very nice.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Electra, for your time, your thoughts, your kindness, your expertise. And I hope it won't be the last time that we have the chance to have a conversation.
Me too. It's been a pleasure. Good day.
Thank you. Thank you. And thanks to our couple of listeners. Remember, we learn from each other. I wish you agency and a wonderful day. And remember that the future was yesterday.